Hey everyone, this is Steve with Nee Family Lights. I'm here with my friend James over there, and we are going to set up the Megatree frame today. And what I wanted to do was show you guys how this comes together with a video. So everything we need is pretty much here in the garage. And we'll start with the specialty pieces that were ordered from ChristmasLightShow.com. And that would include a Megatree kit that includes this 5-way base, this pole pin here, there's a boat winch there, there are anchors there. Those anchors might have to be ordered separately. I think those are the 15 or 18-inch anchors. There's a Megatree hook head. I have the topper from Overkill Metals. Yeah, I was thinking Randy. And then the kit also includes these Megatree ring base pieces. I bought extras. I think it came with 4 or so. I have 8 here. And then the kit also includes guy wires for the topper, which I don't see it here, so I'll have to go grab that. And then the pieces that you would need to buy to set this whole thing up are 4 2-inch black pipe. I think that's an inch and a half, 2 inches. 1.5-inch PVC, which you can just bend and hook them together. This is the conduit type. One end is square, and the other end is flange, so that they fit together. Then I have a tester here. I have a topper. This topper uses galvanized pipe in the back, and that's just going to screw into the topper piece that comes with that kit, and you'll see that in here in a minute. And then definitely want some wires for your star at the top. And let's see, the kit also includes, with these guy wires, the hardware to secure the guy wires. And I think the last bit of stuff you're going to need as far as setup are some wood. I use the wood to kind of lift up the pole as we set it up so we can get everything assembled. You're going to need an impact driver to put in the anchors. You'll need a socket wrench. There's 2 different sizes that are used for the screws here. This one is a 9/16, which is used to secure and turn down to have these poles go in, and we'll show that. The other size you'll need is a 13mm, and this is what's going to be used with the impact driver to then drive in the anchors into the ground. And the last tool you're going to need is a small socket. This one is, let's see, this one is 5/16, and that 5/16 will be used to secure the guy wires. All right, and here's the last piece that I wasn't able to show earlier on that kit for the Megatree. And so this goes on the top, a little thread-in screw, the black pipe. Excuse the trash truck there. It's got a pulley here, and I'm inspecting it just to make sure that all the metal parts are nice and solid, because this is going to hold the entire weight of your tree, your lights, and the strips. It's pretty heavy up there. And then these guys will hold the guy wires down to the ground. There's 4 holes the guy wires will go through, and this top is where it will screw in to the galvanized pipe for your star or whatever you want for your topper. Okay, and the last thing, one more thing, fish tape, a fishing line, and we'll use this to help the star. When we screw the star in, attach it to a couple corners just so it doesn't rotate in case you've got some big winds. Alright, okay, we got everything outside. This EMT piece is marking where the base is going to sit in the middle. And we've got our 4 black pipe pieces, which is really 2 10-foot pieces cut in half. You can get that from Home Depot or Lowe's. So we've got our piece here. Our winch is sitting here ready to go. You will need to drill 1 hole here for the winch to fit in. I've got our topper there that slides up. Here's the middle section where the pole pin goes. Stack of wood there, stack of wood up there, the tree at the top pieces, all the guide wires ready to go. Okay, I'll pass you over to James. He's gonna hold it. And we'll slip the poles together. My bottom piece is kind of all stuck together, so you just slide that bottom on. Okay, so that pin is in there. And then what I do, raise up base here. Same over here. And what this is going to do is allow us to screw on the top and screw on the star, or whatever topper you have, without damaging your topper. Probably time lapse, or speed up this part so you don't have to watch in real time us stacking wood. The idea there is so when you screw this on, it can rotate on without hitting the ground. Okay? Alright. Almost always forget this, but make sure you put on your hook head before you put the top on. This is going to trolley up and down over everything. Okay, that's set. And then we'll put the top on. What I like to do is put a little bit of anti-seize up here, just so the screw threads don't rust to each other. Get this from like Advanced Auto or any auto shop. Stop it. Okay, now we got the top on. You're going to want to think about the way the winch is going to go with the guy wire up around the pulley and then back down to your hook head, because you want that to go naturally straight up and straight down, and then your light's facing forward. And at the same time, to have strength of the guy wires holding the frame, what I did was when I tighten this down, you want to align these legs to match the same direction of where your posts are going to go. So those legs will stick out 5 feet in each of those directions. Each one of these, when they go out, the guy wire is going to go straight to the ground. If you imagine this being up in the air, straight down to the ground. And when it goes to the ground, you want it to support where those legs are going, so they'll work together. So as you can see, I have these 4 pieces lined up with where those 4 legs would stick out. And now we'll put the topper on here. So I'm going to screw the topper on. And as you can see, I've got the guy wires here. We'll pause the video, but we're going to attach the guy wires up here, and we'll show what that looks like at the end. We're going to screw the star in right here. Our front is going to be facing that way. And then the last thing we're going to do is put some fishing line from the corners of the star to these holes here as well, just to keep it from rotating. So we'll show you all that before we raise it up. All right, so we got the topper on, the star, so we'll show you what we did over here. So we screwed the galvanized pipe in. Once we had the star screwed down, we used fishing line here, and we just kind of loosely wrapped it around the corner and tied it into the hole here. And we did all 4 corners just so that way if we have a lot of wind, this guy doesn't move around on you. All right, the next thing we did was we added the 4 guy wires. So it's coming up, going through the loop, and then we got the secure piece here. And all 4 corners are done. Make sure that's nice and snug. This hardware and that hardware. Next thing we're going to do is put on the winch. So we'll get that put together and we'll show you what that looks like. You going? Alright, so we're going to put on this boat winch, and when you look at the tree, this guy wire will go up around the pulley, and you want it to come to the back side of where the topper is, because that hook head bolt where we're going to connect to is on the back of where all the lights are. So your boat winch might be different. This one requires a 14 millimeter, a 3/4 inch, and a 1/2 inch. So here's the 1/2 inch one. Pull through. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, you're going to have to drill a hole in here for this bolt to fit through. It's just one hole you have to put through, and the rest it just screws on here. We've got it on. I talked about the positioning. The other thing about positioning is how high up the pole you want to set this winch. I have this one at 4 feet off the ground. It's a comfortable position for me to be bringing it up. It also, you want to think about that hook head when it comes down will be at a certain height. So those will be about a little over 5 feet tall. Where I would hang the strips, and you want to be able to do that without having to use a ladder. So you can put this where you want it. 4 feet works for me. If you're really tall, then you can put it up at 4.5 or 5 feet. If you want your kids to be able to help, you can lower it a little bit, and then there's plenty of room here on this wire to go any length. This is a 20-foot tall setup, so it's just 2 black pipes, no cut pieces at all on this setup. So this is on here. I left the handle on so it can freewheel. If you look closely in here, there's a lock mechanism. And I'm going to just release the lock mechanism so I can pull it. So, presumably could pull it. We can get it in a good position here. Thanks! Neighbors. Alright, they're excited. So now that it's freewheeling, what you're going to do is pull it up. And this is the front of the tree here, so the front of the tree is this way. I'm going to go through these 2 pieces and in between the pipe and the hook head. Keep on going up into the pulley. I'll go through the pulley. Just going to sit right in there. And pull it back down. Thread back between the pipe and hook head again, this time on the opposite side. And as we come down this way, the nut for the hook head is right here on the back. So what we're going to do is anchor this on here with a lock piece of hardware, and we'll get that. I actually put 2 here because I want to make sure that all the weight of the whole tree is sitting on this one nut welded on here. And it survived 5 years so far. This is the 5th year, so 4 years, and then I'm very confident with this setup. So, all right, so everything is ready. Last thing we're gonna do is wire up the star. I'll talk about what's here. We'll wire it up, and then we'll lift it up in place. We've already tested the star; it's good to go. This is the 270 node Boscoyo 6-star, and it's 36 inches across. And what I do with this guy is got 1 data input. I marked it with just Megatree star. The red one is for power injection to go into the back end of the star, and I marked it red because I have a red pigtail there too. So what we're going to do is this whole long string is it's 2 wires, and it's just going to run right through the middle of this thing and just going to hang. we're going to use a few zip ties and just zip tie it at the top to give it some strain relief. Plug it in, and then before we raise it up, we got to test it, make sure it's working, because you don't want to take this whole thing down just because the plugs weren't plugged in right. Alright, so we got the wire, got the 2 male ends here, so we'll show you what we did. It's going to just hang there. It runs through the back side of your topper, just so that way it can slide up and down as the hook head goes up. It's going to just free-hang all the way up to the top. What we did here is we looped it once, put one zip tie up here just to kind of do some strain relief. One more zip tie here for additional strain relief of the pigtails, and then this is data and power. This is a power injection. So I marked it red here. It's red here, so I know to match it up on the star. And on the bottom of these leads, there's another red at the bottom, so I know which one is power injection versus the rest. All right. Now we're ready to raise it up, and we'll show you what we've done to get ready for that. So on this base, these bolts just kind of hold these pipe pieces in. These pipe pieces can still move around, but I just have it sitting in there so it doesn't pull out. So we have 2 of these in, and we've got the other 2 ready to go. They just slide in and tighten down. And what we're going to do is take the guy wires, 2 of them, that correspond to the 2 at the top over there. There we go. So I'm going to take one of these. I'll take the other one. As you can see, I can hold them, come over this way. You can get a piece of PVC that you have cut off from some other project or from your base ring. As you can see, I can then coil it around here. And what we'll do is have one person hold this and then just slowly walk backwards to keep it from falling on top of the other person. The other person is just going to hand over hand raise it up like a ladder. And then when they get to the end and this thing is stood up, those feet will hold it from falling one way, and the person who's lifting it up, hand over hand, will then put the other 2 pipes in and hand tighten it down. It's not a windy day today, which is great. It's perfect for getting the tree up. Once it's up, you want to get the guy wires in the ground, and then it can be as windy as it wants, and you're good to go. And that'll be it. I'll show you the next step once we get there. Okay, go to the next one. So what I'm doing is, my tree is 20 feet tall. I'm going out 15 feet to each corner, which gives, the farther out you go, the more stability you have, but at some point you don't want to go too far, it just looks ridiculous. I wouldn't go less than 10 feet for something this tall. The farther out you go, the better protection you have. You're just trying to keep the top from moving around. This one's a little bit less than 15 feet because I have the P10 panel here. And while you screw these guys in, the strength of these, when they're sitting in the ground, you want them to be angled straight up towards the top. That way, if it gets pulled, this paddle is working to hold the soil. That dirt down there is what's going to keep this thing from coming up. If you do it straight down or at an angle, it's going to pull it this way, and that top part of the soil is soft, and it'll move it, and you don't want that movement. So put it at an angle, like you're pointing straight back up. We've had some cold days. It's been warm today, so it's great to get to the top. If you have frozen dirt, this is not the time to do it. So we have a nice time to do it. And as you can see, the impact driver is key. That hammer action really helps a lot. It's doing all the work. I'm barely putting any downforce on it. Only if I feel like I'm hitting a rock, I'm moving it around. And as it's going back and forth, it helps the dirt kind of move out of the way to let that paddle drive in the ground. And I don't do that all the way down, because that way you can use this nut to tighten it if you need to. So what we will do is run it through here, put the hardware on, and then we can use this to straighten out the tree and keep it from moving around the top. Okay, and what we've done now is secured all the guide wires. So we raised up the tree, put the two poles in on the base and hand tightened it so that way it would stay there. We drilled and put down the anchors, and so let's come over here to take a look at this. There's 4 guide wires coming down. So we did is flip it around, put the hardware on, and just hand tightened it. We did all 4 and we kept them all loose. Now my ground is pretty flat, but it slopes down a little bit this way, so I know my tree is going to naturally just sit like this towards the power lines. So what I do is make sure the ones that you need to pull away from, you have more slack, and then I just used the 2 that I knew I needed to pull the tree that way. I used those 2 to tighten it up. So while I was tightening them up, James was doing a level here on the tree, so that way you can see 2 ways, any 2 ways that the bubble's in the middle. And that's how you can adjust it. And once you adjust it and you get the 2 that you need to hold it in position, if it's totally flat, you're fine, but typically you want to get 2. Once those are done, then you can tighten the other 2. When you tighten these guys, you don't want them to be like super snug. You just want them to be taut. So when you're all secured and done, if I pluck on this thing, see how it like bounces? It's kind of like a bass string on a guitar. That is totally fine. What you don't want to have is a lot of pulling down tension, because this pin in the middle is still susceptible to, if you put a lot of force on it, you can pull it and bow it like a bow and arrow. So you just want this to be just snug, and that's about it. These wires are hanging. What I wanted to show was this winch setup and how easy it is to pick your strips up. So I'm going to unlock this guy here and let it freewheel down. So the nice thing with this setup is, sit here, hang all your strips without a ladder, 0 ladders in this, and just crank them up. Crank them all the way back up, and you can get them all the way back up to the top. Your wires are good. If you need to work on a pixel, you still don't need a ladder. You can just loosen this guy up, let him down, lock it so it doesn't go any farther, work on what you need to, and then send it all back up. So, love the setup. Some other setups allow you to go up and down as well. I just find the winch to be super easy to work with. Okay, now we're going to assemble the base ring. It is 5 pieces of this electrical conduit PVC. We're going to connect them together. Alright, so we're going to put these anchors in the ground. We have 8 of them, so we'll space them out. Most of them we'll put in the front. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Straight across, but a little bit behind the center line here. Last one. Now that we have our base ring in position, kind of just about where they needs to be, we've got our strips ready over here. There's 32 there, and we will hang them on the hook head. Okay, so we uncoiled most of these strips and just laid them flat here in the yard. And then we're going to drag them and hang them on the hook. Okay, there's one more roll there. We're just going to unroll them and go ahead and stick them right up. Lay it down like right here. I'm gonna walk up here and show you as I'm hanging them what this is gonna look like. This is the Boscoyo tree topper. And there's 63 holes, but it has 32 hooks here, and they're very tight up here. So you'll see I have the hook on the one hole, skip 3, pixel on the 4th. If you use the bullet pixels, it'll be better. They're a little tight back here. They super close. So skipping those holes makes it so that they'll sit flat when they're all the way at the top as best they can. And another thing I did up here was, you might have a different kind of a top piece, but my zip ties, they would hit each other, so I went over, under, and when I hang them here, you'll see that the 2 flat sides are facing each other, so if I flip this around to the back, it's flat. So I hang that one, see the 2 flat sides facing out, this one goes and the flat side faces back. And then they can be really close up here. We'll have to shake them around to get them to sit right once you pull it up. Okay, so I included, I added to these eye bolts here. You only really need one, but I have that there so that way I can attach a guide wire here, and while it's up there, if I need to rotate the top of the strips a little bit, I can pull the guide wire one way or another just to rotate this, kind of align it where I want it. So I'm just going to put a piece of guide wire up here. And I'm going to use this one, doesn't really matter. I feel like I'm going to need to turn it, rotate it this way, so I'm going to use this so that way behind the tree I can pull it to the direction I want it to go. This is not really for stability of the tree, for structure, it's really just for alignment. Once we crank everything up, everything will be in the sky, and It's really the last bit of adjustment that can be done. That way we can pull it one way or another while we're on the ground. Put these anchors down. We already buried those guys in with a 3/8 inch impact driver, piling those into the ground. This will sit on top with this bolt, and the only size you'll need is 7/16 tools to put this together and reassemble this. So take off one of those, set it on top here. Screw it down, and then open that up, drop the PVC in there. Oh well, it's turned too easily. Pull it out, get it this way, drop together. This will help keep the ring from pulling up. Once you get the strips all on there, it's going to want to pull the ring up. These anchors will help hold it down. And tighten it for now. Okay, here we're at the base of the tree. We got a ring, mostly concerned about the level of the front. Don't worry about the back. I'm on a little tiny hill, so it looks kind of weird shape in here, but it's all good. I'm going to show you what we do to hold the strips down to the bottom. We don't physically screw them into anything, and you'll see it's all tension based, and I can adjust things with these bungees that are piled up here. And there's the tree right now, just kind of hanging out. Alright, here we go. So these will go, flip them under like that, okay? And then what you can do is you take let's see. On the front. Through the back and pull it tight. That's what gets our attention. The height, but you can adjust it as you go, which is nice. Stick it on there. Alright, here we go. Here's the tree. We'll do some